Imagine a man who lived among his neighbors, seemed completely normal, yet hid a darkness that no one could imagine.
Today, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer, one of America's most infamous serial killers, claimed 17 victims, and his crimes shocked the world. Today, we're diving into the chilling stories behind the life and murders of the Milwaukee Cannibal, uncovering the terrifying details that made him a name forever linked to horror. What makes Dahmer's case chilling isn't just the brutality, it's the quietness with which he lived. A man who went to work, bought groceries, nodded politely to neighbors, and lived in an ordinary apartment. And yet, behind that thin wall of normalcy, one of the darkest killing sprees in American history was unfolding. His life became a horrifying example of how evil can hide in plain sight, unrecognized by the people closest to it. A troubled beginning. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Early on, his life seemed unremarkable, but subtle warning signs appeared: fascination with dead animals, isolation, and obsessive behavior. Friends described him as quiet and withdrawn, a boy who struggled to connect with others. His parents' relationship was turbulent. Arguments, stress, and emotional distance filled the household. Dahmer grew up surrounded by conflict, often feeling invisible or ignored. Many believe his fascination with death began as a coping mechanism, a strange but powerful escape from the chaos around him. He collected roadkill, dissected animals, and kept bones in jars, behaviors that, at the time, were brushed off as odd but harmless. By his late teens, these tendencies escalated. His fascination with death and control over others became increasingly concerning, but no one fully anticipated the horror that would come. Teachers noticed his drinking. Classmates saw him spiraling quietly. Despite these warning signs, Dahmer slipped through the cracks, unnoticed, untreated, and headed toward a darkness no one could imagine: the first victims. Dahmer committed his first murder in 1978, shortly after high school. He lured a young man, Stephen Hicks, into his car, took him to a remote area, and killed him. For years, authorities were unaware of this early crime. What made this murder particularly disturbing was how spontaneous it was. Dahmer later said he simply didn't want Hicks to leave. That desire, possessiveness, fear of abandonment became a recurring theme in his crimes. He didn't just kill, he wanted to keep his victims with him, even after death. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, Dahmer's methods became more organized and horrifying. He targeted young men, often from vulnerable communities, luring them to his apartment under the guise of work, money, or companionship. Once inside, he would overpower, kill, and, in some cases, preserve parts of his victims' bodies. His apartment became a trap disguised as safety, a place where he offered drinks, promises, and opportunities to young men who were often overlooked by society. Many victims were trusting, hopeful, or simply trying to survive. Dahmer turned that vulnerability into opportunity. Patterns of a killer. Investigators later noted disturbing patterns. Dahmer photographed his victims, kept body parts as trophies, and even attempted to create zombies by chemical means. His behavior reflected an extreme desire for control and permanence over his victims, a shocking obsession with possession even after death. For Dahmer, the murders weren't only about violence, they were about control, absolute, unchallenged control. The photographs documented each stage of his crimes, acting as souvenirs he could revisit long after the acts themselves. His experiments with chemicals revealed a terrifying attempt to create living, compliant companions, victims who could not resist or leave. Neighbors sometimes noticed strange smells or odd behavior, but Dahmer was skilled at masking his crimes, blending into ordinary life while committing acts of unimaginable horror behind closed doors. He told landlords the smells came from spoiled meat. He joked with neighbors. He lived an outwardly quiet life, using his calm demeanor as camouflage. Even when police were called after a horrifying incident involving one of his would-be victims, Dahmer managed to convince them everything was fine. His ability to manipulate authority allowed him to continue killing. The arrest that ended the nightmare. In 1991, Dahmer's crimes finally came to light. A man, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape and flag down police after witnessing an attempt by Dahmer to subdue him. Edward's escape was an act of sheer courage. Handcuffed, terrified, and running barefoot through the streets, he led officers back to Dahmer's apartment, a place no one had ever escaped before. When authorities searched Dahmer's apartment, they were confronted with a scene that still chills investigators to this day. Photographs of dismembered bodies, preserved remains, and evidence of multiple murders spanning over a decade. A refrigerator containing human remains, tools used for dismemberment, chemicals, sketches, Polaroids documenting every horrifying detail. The apartment was a chamber of horrors disguised as a one-bedroom unit in a quiet building. Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested and confessed to 17 murders, explaining in interviews the twisted motives and compulsion that drove him. He described his urges in calm, almost emotionless detail, as if he were discussing routine tasks, not one of the most gruesome killing sprees in modern history, trial and imprisonment. In 1992, Dahmer was convicted and sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms. Courtroom accounts describe a man calm yet detached, attempting to rationalize his actions. He told the court he wanted help, yet never fully acknowledged the gravity of what he'd done. Victims' families confronted him, expressing their grief, rage, and loss. Their pain filled the courtroom, creating emotional scenes that would stay with those present forever. Psychologists analyzed him as having a combination of psychopathy and necrophilic tendencies, showing the chilling depth of his pathology. While some hoped the trial would offer closure, the victims' families were left grappling with unimaginable loss. Even behind bars, Dahmer remained a subject of intense fascination, studied by experts, interviewed by media, and discussed worldwide. His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the horrors he admitted to, making him even more unsettling. Legacy of horror. Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes remain infamous, not just because of the number of victims, but due to the extreme nature of his actions and the failure of social systems to detect warning signs sooner. Police missed major red flags. Social services overlooked key behaviors. Communities around him never suspected a thing. This case became a reflection of systemic failures that cost many innocent lives. His story continues to captivate true crime enthusiasts, law enforcement, and psychologists alike. It serves as a reminder of the darkness some individuals can harbor behind a seemingly normal exterior. Dahmer's life has been the subject of documentaries, books, and movies, not to glorify him, but to understand how such horror could grow unnoticed in ordinary surroundings. His crimes challenge society to question how well we really know the people around us. Jeffrey Dahmer's story is terrifying, not just for what he did, but for how someone could live among us unnoticed for so long. If this case left you shaken or curious about the hidden horrors of human behavior, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We bring more chilling true crime stories, mysteries, and investigations straight to you. You won't want to miss the next story, because sometimes the truth is stranger and darker than fiction. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos on YouTube.